Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. We'll be starting in approximately 5 minutes, just giving everybody a chance to get logged on. All right, so let's start the webinar. I want to start off by thanking everybody for their presence here today. Welcome to our webinar. I'm Nasreen Chams, Assistant Vice President of Business Development here at Stratagem. And the topic of our webinar today is Igniting Your Cybersecurity Transformation, Embracing Security as a Service. So who is Stratagem? We've been making a lot of noise more recently in the marketplace here and a lot of attention on Stratagem. So why? Who are we? We are a trailblazer in the world of cybersecurity, offering an innovative security as a service solution for mid to large enterprises. Our services help businesses protect their digital assets without the need to purchase or maintain costly hardware or software. Built on the concept of cybersecurity mesh architecture, our integrated approach ensures all security tools work together seamlessly for faster threat detection and response. And so the model has been a very strategic way for organizations to adopt a very quick go-to-market strategy for cybersecurity. So with Stratagem, clients reduce their cybersecurity risks and costs while gaining 24/7 365 support from our dedicated cyber intelligence center. Simply put, we make cybersecurity simpler, smarter, and more efficient for organizations. So the agenda for today will start off with a current state of cybersecurity and the challenges we all face. We'll move into security as a service as per Stratagem's offering and how we are different in the market space. Third, we'll talk about the cybersecurity mesh architecture and how we integrate that to make a solution working in your favor, and ultimately walking through security as a service case study. Lastly, we will go through a Q&A, and then of course the Bose headset raffle will happen at the very end. I encourage everybody to put their questions into the chat and we will get to them as they come. So I'm happy to introduce the speaker of the webinar today, President and CEO of Stratagem, John Menezes, a seasoned professional with over 30 years in information security, a trailblazer in North American managed security services. Serial entrepreneur, John successfully founded and exited CyberClicks, a first-generation MSSP. Now at Stratagem's helm, he's pioneered a unique cybersecurity mesh approach that interweaves disparate security elements into a robust ecosystem. And under John's leadership, Stratagem delivers top-tier customer-centric security solutions, fostering innovation and setting new industry standards. So with that being said, I will hand it over to John himself.
Thanks very much, Nasreen, and thanks everybody for joining. It's always a pleasure to talk about security as a service and the cybersecurity mesh architecture. But before I start, I want to do a quick poll and see if what everybody thinks. And the number one thing we want to do is how many security tools do you have in your organization today? So we've come up with some numbers. More than 3, more than 7, more than 10, more than 15. So give everybody an opportunity to quickly tell us, how many tools you have in your environment today. It's always one of my pet topics is, how many tools are we buying and how many tools are we using? So I'll give you 20 seconds to. And Nasreen, I'll get you to tally the the answers, and we'll get going.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I didn't put in I don't know answer. But
so John, here, 58% of the participants have said that they have more than 7 tools in their environment currently.
Okay. And anybody with more than 15?
Yes, 5% of the audience has 15 or more tools in the environment.
Okay, great. That's great. So you know, the reason we ask for the poll and the reason we ask for, how many tools you have, because this is one of the key challenges that we're facing in cybersecurity today. We have too many tools. Okay. I was with a customer, a rather large customer just a few weeks ago, and he said to me, I have 26 tools. And I said to him, you have a big team of people. And he said, John, we don't have as many people, and this is one of the key challenges that customers are facing, the enterprise are facing everywhere. It's very easy to buy technology. It's very easy to buy the latest and greatest tools. But one of the biggest problems that we are facing today is that everything is siloed. So you buy a tool and it's another silo, and you go out and you learn about the latest and greatest technology. Somebody's got attack surface monitoring, and somebody's got cloud security protection, and so you go out and you buy another tool, and that's another tool, another silo. And then the challenge you have is that you don't have the cybersecurity professionals to manage these tools and to look at the data that you're getting from these tools. I was at the Gartner Summit last month, and they said that there are 3.5 million job openings for cybersecurity professionals in the US, and 50,000 of those in Canada. And then you're buying all these tools, they're all siloed, you don't have the people, and what's the outcome? The outcome is you don't have the outcome that you're looking for. You have failure to achieve the meaningful outcomes. And while we are failing to achieve the meaningful outcomes, even after spending a lot of money on the latest and greatest tools, the attackers, on the other hand, are constantly innovating. And the attackers, unfortunately for us, are innovating faster than ever. So they are making use of AI and machine learning and all these fun things to figure out how can they break down our defenses, how can they penetrate our security, and how can they start data. And so we have this challenge that we have. On one side we have all the tools, but they're not working for us. On the other side, we have attackers that are challenging us. So how do we address these challenges? So Gartner said, vendor consolidation. So like you said, you've got too many tools. So what's the solution? Let's consolidate. Let's consolidate the vendors. So every organization is now pursuing a vendor consolidation strategy. It was 75% in 2022, and it was only 29% in 2020. So everybody's pursuing a vendor consolidation. Or you can go out and buy the latest and greatest tool, XDR, Extended Detection Response Tools. And now Gartner says by 2023, more than 80% of organizations plan to have XDR, and nearly 70% have planned to have SASE. Okay, so we are now at the end of July, so kind of more than halfway through 2023. So once again, we're going down this path of buying new tools. And the third option is transition to a as-is service, or adopt a SaaS models. But instead of just being an application, use that same SaaS model for cybersecurity. So vendor consolidation. Is great. I'd love. I've been in this business 30 years, and I've been watching vendors consolidating for forever. The challenge is that you have vendors that go out and buy competitors, and they coddle this solution together. But what happens is you're putting all your eggs in one basket, and then if your vendor is not agile, and if your vendor is not able to come up and deal with the latest threats that the hackers who are using AI to develop new tools to attack us, then you're kind of stuck, because now you're waiting for your chosen vendor to come up with all these things. So the vendors are not consolidating. They might consolidate. There'll be some consolidation, but they will never be consolidated. And then you have XDR. So if you're in cybersecurity, and if you've been in the business for the last year and a half, You can't escape this term XDR. Everybody's talking about XDR, okay? And everybody's talking about XDR as another silver bullet. If I have XDR, all my problems are going to be solved. But it doesn't really work that way, because XDR, even though it aims to be a unified solution, you're still relying on a single vendor to provide all these different services within that product. So again, you're kind of locked in with one vendor, and switching to another solution might be a challenge. And then there's no flexibility, there's no customization. It's one size fits all. You got to buy an XDR solution from vendor A, and you have to use it. There's no flexibility. You can't change. If the EDR component of their XDR solution is not good, you can't change it. You got to stick with the vendor. So those are the challenges you have. So brings us to security as a service. So what is security as a service? It's a very simple business model. It's where a company outsources security services to a service provider that delivers these services over the internet. Excuse me, I'm talking about Netflix and DVDs. I don't know, the age bracket of my audience today, but I'm old enough to remember DVDs, and so Netflix was, so you're not buying DVDs anymore. You go out and you want to watch one movie, you pay a subscription, and you get access to all of this. So that's the same thing with security service. You pay for it once, and you get access to all the tools and technologies that you need. So what's typically included in a security service? So typically you'll have 24/7, 365 incident management and response. The reason I highlight response here is because there's another term that you hear a lot about these days, and it's called managed detection response. Everybody's an MDR. So you have XDR and you have an MDR, and an MDR is basically able to not only manage and open an incident and say, hey, you know what, you've got an incident, Mr. Customer, go fix it, but the MDR is required to respond to the threat and take action on behalf of the customer. So that is why the security service incorporates MDR. And besides the MDR component, you'll generally have security information and event management, or log management, which is a key component for forensics, for incident response, for correlation, threat intelligence. So threat intelligence is also a very important component these days. You want to know what's happening out in the dark web and the deep web. You want to know whether your organization is targeted, whether the segment, the vertical you are in is targeted. And then you have vulnerability management. Your vulnerability management is a huge issue. What vulnerabilities should you patch? And how do you know which one to patch? Which one is good? Which one is bad? Which one should I bother about? Which one should I not bother about? And then endpoint detection and response. And the list goes on and on. We have network defense as a service. You have CASB as a service. You have DLP as a service. But for purposes of the webinar, I just wanted to make sure that you get a sense of the completeness of security as a service. So what's the value proposition for security service? So why do people, why is this model being adopted so frequently and by most organizations? The first thing is a 7/24 managed service. So you're always on. You're monitoring and protecting your computer systems and your data from digital threats, hackers, viruses, data breaches. So it's a 24/7 service. Because just setting up a 24/7 service is an expensive proposition for most organizations. And so, some people will carry a pager and they say, okay, I have 24/7, but I'm carrying a pager, and if something happens, I'll log into the system. But in this day and age, when everything is happening so rapidly, you cannot afford to have somebody on pager that they might be asleep and something happens. You need to have this 24/7 managed service. The second great thing about security services, it's best of breed, and it's subscription based. So here you're getting access to the best of breed technologies, whether the best of breed SIM, or the best of breed vulnerability management, or the best of breed threat intelligence, or the best of breed EDR. You're able to use the best of breed technologies without having to make any investment in hardware or software. So there are no capital investments. The third key component is it's a cloud-based. So everything about security service is cloud-based. And before COVID, this might have been a challenge, but when we've seen in COVID that, you're at home, you're working on sometimes on your home PC, a PC that all your kids and friends and everybody has access to, and you're accessing corporate applications in the cloud. So the enterprise, you've got to make sure that no matter what device you're using, or no matter where you are when you're using that device, that when you access the corporation's data, that it's done in a secure manner. And finally, it's up-to-date protection. You're not worried about, hey, I have to patch my systems, I have to bring it up to date. There are 3 vulnerabilities. You're freed from this great challenge of having to update everything. The service provider does the updates, make sure that you always have the latest and greatest access. You don't have to worry that Office 365 has a vulnerability, because that's Microsoft's job. They're going to make sure that they patch the system, and you as a user of that system. So the same applies to security service. It's just a security service is not just one product. It's a multiple basket of products that are being used. So we talk about security as a service. So I just want to talk a little bit more about Strategem's innovation. So security service, you have security service, and there'll be many organizations who are offering a security service. But there's something that's very unique about what Strategem has done, and with the cybersecurity mesh architecture. And the cybersecurity mesh architecture is a term coined by Gartner in 2021. And it's very interesting for us at Strategem, because we had developed a security service that was based on a completely integrated model right from day one. So right from 2015, when we started the company and we built this security service, our vision was always to have this completely integrated solution. So what's the mesh architecture kind of Gartner? It's a composable security ecosystem. It's fully integrated. It has real-time detection and response. It's scalable and flexible. It's future-proof. So these are some of the key tenets that Gartner thought about, that this is what you need for cybersecurity mesh architecture. And it was music to our ears, because Strategem has been doing this since 2015. So we had already built this totally integrated solution. We just didn't have a really fancy name to give it. And so Gartner did us a great favor in 2021 when they came out with this, and they said, hey, you know what? You need a cybersecurity mesh architecture. This is how it's all going to work. And so what does this mesh architecture look at? If you look at all these bits and pieces of different buzzwords and acronyms, you get a sense of how complex cybersecurity is. When Strategem first started in 2015, we had a SIM, and that was it. That was security. That was our service. It was a managed SIM. And then we added threat intelligence. And a few years later, we added EDR. And then we added vulnerability management. And then we added security, network defense as a service. And then we added security orchestration, automation, and response. And so over the last 7.5 to 2 years, this mesh that we were building has slowly evolved. So today, when people say, I'm going to have a cybersecurity mesh architecture, I just want to give you a sense of the complexities involved in the cybersecurity mesh architecture. Because we have grown up, because Strategem has grown up as a cloud company, as a cybersecurity mesh company from day one, we are able to deliver this very complex architecture to our customers without our customers seeing the complexity, of having to experience the complexity of it all. So if you decide, hey, I'm going to go build my own cybersecurity mesh architecture, I think it's a great idea. It's just that, are you going to do it in 2 years, or are you going to do it in 5 years? And then we have all these buckets of different products, and you'll see different logos, because as strategy, we are vendor agnostic. We don't care whether you like vendor A, or you like vendor B, or you like vendor C. Our approach is a best of breed. So if a particular vendor in a particular segment does not perform, or their products are not evolving with the threat, we can very simply take them out of the mesh and put a new product into the mesh. And now, like I talked about attack surface monitoring, you don't see any attack surface monitoring on these boxes. Why? Because these are new technologies that are coming out to address the new challenges that the attackers are putting in front of us. This mesh architecture allows us the ability to add and subtract, and for everything to work together. There are no silos. There are no silos in the cybersecurity mesh architecture. It's all interconnected. So let me give you an example of the value of cyber mesh in action. Okay, so we have a playbook. This is for, I'm sorry if I'm becoming too techie out here, but successful VPN and lateral movement is one of the key use cases that we use as cybersecurity. But it's I think the point I'm trying to drive home, even though I'm being a little techie out here, is that why do we need a cybersecurity mesh architecture? Because we are not siloed. So if you detect something, if you detect a trigger playbook when an alert is triggered in the SIEM or EDR platform, okay? So that means you have two components of your solution working together. You have the SIEM and the EDR. Then you need to integrate that with threat intelligence sources. You've got to determine the severity. You've got to determine the confidence of the threat. And you've got to update the incident record. So now you're touching two more solutions. You're touching threat intelligence, you're touching ServiceNow for incident management. So right there, in 2 steps of the process, we're working with 4 different tools. And then you want to take action. You want to contain the threat. Remember, I talked about MDR being about responding to threats. Well, now you've got to contain the threat. So you've seen something bad happening. Now you got to contain it. How do you contain it? You got to revoke the user access. You got to force the re-authentication. You got to block the IP on the firewall and secure web gateway. You got to secure the endpoint. So again, now you're going into the firewall, the secure web gateway, the EDR. So now you've got 6 products that you're worried about, and you're doing all this in less than 5 minutes. And the only way you can do all this, the only way you can get the containment, you can go from a detection, analysis, and containment within 5 minutes, is because we are using a cybersecurity mesh architecture. Because what has happened is all these products are talking to each other. And because they're talking to each other, we are able to contain this in less than 5 minutes. And this whole process of automation in less than 5 minutes is done without any human intervention. It's all done automatically. It's all done through the expertise and the knowledge and the machine learning that is ingrained within these tools. So that's the automation piece, but it doesn't end there. We still have some more pieces to do. We've got to do the investigation. So what Strategem done? We have contained it. So we have prevented more damage being done in the enterprise, and we've taken the action right away. We've done that. But the job doesn't end there. The job doesn't end there. You still have to figure out, has hacker been in the network before? Maybe we caught them this time, but they've been in the network for 2 days, 2 months. So we still need to do that threat hunting. We need to go back. We need to figure out, have we seen this hacker before? Have we seen this hash before? So that manual process still has to take place. And then if they were there, and if you had to do these malicious files, and you had to reverse system changes, and you still have to do all that, and that is all the manual work. So there are two aspects of incident management, threat management. One is, stop the attack as soon as you know about it. So as soon as you know about it, stop it, contain it. Then there's a manual process where you've got to do the threat hunting and remove the malicious information and get this all done. So this is, so you can see all the tools. So the previous slide I show you are the complexities of how all these bits and pieces are talking to each other, and it looks like it's sometimes I joke with the team. It's not a mesh; it's more of a mess. But that is how the system works, and because we are able to make sense of all the data points coming into the system, that we're able to contain a threat within 5 minutes and then figure out what the problem is within less than a day. So to me, the future of cybersecurity is security as a service. This is the future. We don't believe that enterprises are going to go out and build their own mesh and build their own service and have their own teams. While everybody might like to do that, I don't think that's a path that's going to be sustained for very long. So security service, the first thing we're doing is breaking down all the silos. You saw from the mesh architecture, you saw from the use case, you have to break down the silos. If you're not breaking down the silos, and everything I've talked about is going to be for naught, because you're not going to be able to do it. It has to be vendor agnostic. I don't know if vendor A is going to be the king next year or vendor B is going to be the king next year. But I've been in this business for a long time, so I've seen many silver bullet cybersecurity companies come and go, and they still haven't solved the fundamental problem. So being vendor agnostic is very important. And I know you have these large vendors who are going to come out to you and say, you know what, we have the answers to everything. You buy our EDR, and you buy our firewalls, and you buy our secure web gateway, and you buy our cloud solution, and we're going to take care of you. I have not seen that work yet. Your experience might be different. You might be luckier than I am, but I've not seen one vendor that's come out and had all the answers to all the problems. And then you need expert resources. We already talked about the fact that there's, in Canada alone, there's 50,000 open positions. So finding resources is tough. Stratagem is working with Sheridan College to develop cybersecurity professionals, but it's a long process. Matter of fact, when I was talking to the dean at the college, they said it takes 3 years for us to get the curriculum updated. So you can just imagine, at the speed of which we're going with cybersecurity, where things are changing every day, if not every hour, to wait for colleges within the province of Ontario to change their curriculum, it's going to take three years. This problem is not getting solved anytime soon. And then finally, one of the key things with Stratagem is that we're not coming to an organization and saying all the tools you have to go, and you've got to take all our tools. We have a very flexible mesh model. So if you have a particular tool that you paid for and you're using and you like, we can just integrate that tool into our mesh and give you the benefit of this integrated solution for you. So we're able to integrate existing technologies with new technologies, but the most important thing is we make it all work for you. So cybersecurity mesh architecture and security service, it's better together. Okay, so just getting a security service doesn't really buy you much. You need to get the security service that's built on a cybersecurity mesh architecture. Okay, it has to be comprehensive. It has to be security on demand. You need to be able to have all the bits and pieces that you need. If you want to add attack surface monitoring into your environment tomorrow, you should be able to do that. Okay, you don't want to be tied down or have such a rigid kind of solution that the whole point of having a security service doesn't really work. It has to be scalable and adaptive. Okay, so everything we're doing, everything we've done, it works well for a customer with with 150 employees, and it works just as well for a customer with 30,000 employees, because it's all integrated, because it's all scalable, because it's all adaptive. And then the key thing is it has to have simplified management. You know, you have all these tools, they all have to work together. They all have to work together. So the whole point of streamlining security operations, we've got to centralize the management. We've got to eliminate all the complex back-end infrastructure stuff. So what we do is, by us focusing on the complexities, as you saw for our cybersecurity mesh architecture, we are freeing our customers up to focus on their core business. You know, you're in the business of banking, you're in the business of selling product, you're in the business of providing insurance services. You're not in the business of, you know, managing a sophisticated cybersecurity mesh architecture. And cost optimization, where we're giving you, you know, we're helping you reduce your costs, and we're helping you reduce your risk. So you don't have to go out and spend millions and millions of dollars to adapt our security service based on a cybersecurity mesh architecture. It's available to you. You can buy it, you can get it done, and you can move very quickly to achieve some of the outcomes that customers are looking for in this world of cybersecurity. So let me take you through a case study of where, you know, Stratagem has worked with the customer, and the customer is very kind enough to allow us to do this case study, because the first thing he said, John, you know, if you use my name, will all the hackers now know what technology we're using? And it's a very common question. So I'm very grateful for them that they allow us to use their name, and you know, so we can share with you their experiences of having a security service and cybersecurity mesh architecture. So like the company is Superior Plus, they're an oil company, you know, like everybody else, you know, they have a security team. It's operating in silos. When you're operating in silos, then you have poor visibility. You have poor visibility to data. You have poor visibility to analytics. And then you really don't know, you know, what your security posture is. You know, what steps you're taking, and then generally, you know, you start falling behind on compliance and regulation, especially if you're a regulated business. You know, PCI or OSFI or SOX or PAPIDA. There's a lot of regulations out there, and so you start. So they came to us and said, hey, you know what? Here's our solution. Here's the problems we are having. How can you help us? And so what did we do? So the first thing we've done is we've implemented a fully integrated mesh architecture, okay, and incorporating both new and existing technology. So they have a lot of technologies already. So we didn't go to them and say, you know, all the technology you bought are no good. We're now going to show you how to, you know, we're going to give you all new technology. That's not the approach that we take. It's like, okay, what works for you, what's working for you, and what are the gaps, and how can we fill the gaps? And then what do we do? The moment we build the mesh architecture for you, we're providing you greater visibility both on-premise and cloud. Everybody is going to the cloud. Everybody's a hybrid. You know, you have a lot of legacy applications that are on-prem, but more and more customers are going to the cloud. So you need to have a solution that can accommodate both your on-prem and the cloud. The mesh architecture has resulted in enhanced detection and faster response. Okay, we detect things faster. We've reduced the attack surface. Okay, every time because of the way we're operating in this mesh architecture, we've reduced the attack surface. We've made the whole security posture more adaptive. And most importantly, we've given them cost certainty. You know, cost certainty, you sign a contract with us for 3 to 5 years, you have the cost certainty over a long period of time. And so they are exceedingly happy with some of the results and you know, the fun part about all of this stuff, it hasn't taken them 3 years to get to where they were. It took them just 3 months to get from where they were before to a fully integrated solution. 3 months. And if you know, and if you worked in cybersecurity, and if you worked in IT, and you know, every time you go to launch a new product, you put a new technology, you know, it goes on forever and ever, and and there are always delays, things don't work out. The reason we were able to do this in 3 months is because the solution is already integrated. It's our security service is already up and running. It's all integrated. We have de-risked the implementation. So we never have a project where we say, oh, you know what, sorry, you know, we're going to be 90 days late. We're very sorry. We're really trying everything we can. We want to get your service up and running, but it's going to be delayed. We never have those situations. Why? Because everything is already integrated. Everything is already de-risked. Everything already works. And bringing on new customers is such an easy proposition. So you're thinking, you know, so you have a mesh. So why do I care? And you know, that's a you know, you have a security service. You have a security mesh. Why do I care? And I get that all the time. You know, so what's so great about your mesh? Why do I care? Why do I want a mesh? Well, the first thing we've seen is that we can reduce the mean time to detect from 48 hours to 6 hours. Okay, so these are real metrics. These are real metrics. These are real improvements that our customers are seeing within their environment. Okay, so it's not just, you know, a security service mesh. You know, use as many buzzwords as you can. No, this is where the rubber meets the road. The insider threat. The mean time for detecting a malicious insider activities was reduced from 72 hours to 2 hours. Why? Because all the tools are talking together, all the tools are working together, all the tools are delivering on the key outs that customers want. Customers don't want to go out and buy an XDR. You know, an XDR is not buying them anything. Customers want to make sure that they can detect threats in real time and they can take action in real time. Those are the outcomes that people are looking for. That's why they're not looking to buy an XDR. They're looking to buy an EDR. Those are just buzzwords. What are the outcomes? Similar network detections, you know, the mean time to detect a network intrusion was like average of 12 hours. We now do it in 30 minutes. In 30 minutes. And phishing is, you know, phishing has been, I think, is the bane of everybody's existence. You know, the amount of phishing attacks that are coming, it's just crazy. Okay, and what we have seen is that every major breach has happened because somebody has got phished. Okay, so this is a major issue that, you know, you're getting an email, you're getting a WhatsApp message, you're getting some Facebook message, you click on a link, and before you know it, you have been compromised. And the sad part about it is that you don't even know you've been compromised. Okay, you don't even know that you mistakenly given your username and password to a site that you thought was Microsoft, but it's something else. And so, you know, users are very diligent. They send you an email and they say, hey, you know, I think this is a phishing email. And then the security team will spend a day or 2 days figuring out whether it's malicious. So it took like, you know, 24 hours to do this manual email analysis. So with our cybersecurity mesh architecture, with all the automation that we have with them, we can decide within 15 minutes whether something has been malicious, whether a user has been compromised, and then we can tell very quickly, you know, what system has this attacker touched, and we can do that all without human intervention. So this is how the mesh. So if you ask me, you know, you have a mesh, why do I care? I've given you 4 reasons for why you should care. So that is why I think, you know, cybersecurity, you know, that's why I talk about igniting your cybersecurity transformation, because we have a solution, we have a methodology that has been proven over the last 7.5 years to deliver great value for our customers, using a concept that is so new, but it's so new yet it's tried and trusted. So I will stop there. I think
Perfect. Thank you, John. Really appreciate that. Very powerful presentation. We have a few questions here in the chat. The first one from Dave. Great work. Do you have a visual of your sample software as a service UI dashboard to share with clients that outlines key security analytics metrics you typically focus on?
Absolutely. So we have some very sophisticated dashboards and metrics, and there are two types of dashboards and metrics. One is more global, generalized, and one is more aligned to our particular customers. And I look at, like I showed you a few metrics, mean time to detect, mean time to respond, all that fun stuff. Sometimes customers come to me and say, you know what, I'm going to the board. I have to present to the board, and the board is not interested in mean time to detect, and the board is not interested in mean time to respond. So how do I transform all these wonderful data that you have on all these fantastic dashboards, and how do I convert all that data so I can take it into some business-friendly language and lingo? And so that's also what we can help our customers with. So we have that option as well. But I'll be happy to share dashboards and analytics with you. I think at the end of the seminar we have a QR code and Nasreen's contact information. If you can just reach out to her, she'll be happy to set up a meeting to talk about this.
Yeah, fantastic. Be happy to connect with you on that, Dave. Another question, John, this is more of an academic, I know this is probably, you could write a PhD dissertation on this question, but they ask, can you briefly explain SASE?
Yeah, SASE is, it's a question of, people talk about SASE, people talk about zero trust. It's what the key concept of SASE is, do you know who is accessing your data? Do you know who's what device they're using to access your data? And do they have authorization to access the data? That is what SASE is all about. And if you look at what SASE is doing, SASE is basically, cybersecurity mesh for identity and data protection. So think of it this way. So I have my crown jewel sitting in a data center. I want to make sure that if John is accessing these crown jewels of mine, that he accesses it from 8:30 to 5, Monday to Friday, and then after that he doesn't access it anymore. So SASE is very much about who can access what data, when, and how. That's what SASE is about. It's a it's a buzzword. It's a buzzword, but it's a buzzword that again something that Gartner coined about 3.5 years ago. And you'll see. So when Gartner came out with SASE, I think somewhere in 2020 or 2019, and they found that SASE was too difficult to implement. And they found that even though enterprises thought it was a great concept, they found it very difficult to implement. So then Gartner came out 2 years later with something called SSE, which is Secure Service Edge. So they said, okay, let's break this up into its two parts. Let's do the service edge first, and then we'll do the authorization later. So it's a great way. And what we believe is with the cybersecurity mesh architecture, if you want to implement concepts like SASE, if you want to implement concepts like SSE, you can do that, but you can do it in a very efficient and effective manner with the cybersecurity mesh architecture. Otherwise, you go to vendor A will say, hey, I have a great SASE solution. But what does that mean? It means buying everything that I have to implement SASE. Or I have a great SSE solution. And then but you have to buy everything from that particular vendor. I haven't seen a single enterprise that has all the cybersecurity tools that from a single vendor. You'll have Active Directory authorization, that's Microsoft. You'll have firewalls, that's Palo Alto. You'll have EDR, that's CrowdStrike. So anytime vendors come and say, buy all my tools and I'm going to deliver this magical thing called SASE or this magical thing called SSE, I'd be wary of it. I think we'll look at the outcomes and see what tools you have, and then see what gaps you have, and then you fill the gaps. And the cybersecurity mesh architecture approach is the way of the future.
We have another question here, John. So we already have our SIM. So how will the cybersecurity mesh architecture work in that case?
Well, if SIM, I sold my first SIM in 1999. So I've been in the SIM business for a long time. So I've seen every SIM come and go. And so what we did at Strategy, we talked about our mesh. We don't want to come to you and say, the SIM that you've been using for the last 10 years, we don't want to say, hey, get rid of the SIM. What we want to say to you is have that SIM incorporated into our cybersecurity mesh architecture. We'll make your SIM that you have probably used for the last 5 or 6 years. We can make it work more efficiently. We can have the rules tuned, and we can deliver more value for you from your existing technologies than perhaps you have got from it for the last 5 or 7 years that you've been using the tools. We are not in the business of getting you to replace your tools. We are in the business of getting you to get the maximum output from the tools that you have.
Excellent. We have room for 2 more questions. I have this one here stating, you did not talk about AI. What role does that play in cybersecurity today?
The reason I don't talk about AI, because AI is a buzzword. Okay, it's like XDR, and it's another buzzword. Everything is AI, and now that everybody's talking about ChatGPT and everybody's into ChatGPT. Just for your information, we have a stratagem has integrated ChatGPT into our incident management process. So we've already done. We did that 3 months ago, and we were able to implement ChatGPT very quickly because of our ecosystem. Our ecosystem is all API driven, and ChatGPT is all API driven. And we can do that. We are helping our analysts can now have access to ChatGPT. Our customers can. So when an incident triggers in our ServiceNow instance, there's a button on there which says, ask ChatGPT. So if you just want to ask some general questions, get some more information about the incident or more data, you just click the button, you get it. I believe that AI is going to play a very, very important role in cybersecurity. Okay, especially when you find that there are no resources. Okay, there are no resources available to cybersecurity professionals available. So being able to have your own AI and you be able to train the AI to actually behave like a cybersecurity analyst. I joke with my team here. I have about 50 cybersecurity analysts working for us here in our Cyber Intelligence Center, and I keep joking with them. And I say to them, within 18 months, your job will become redundant. We will not need to have human beings looking at incidents, triaging incidents, and doing anything. That entire role will be played by AI. AI-enabled bots, AI-enabled systems. So I'm very bullish on AI, but for purposes of this webinar, I don't want to waste time talking about AI. It's coming, it's going to be there, and our cybersecurity mesh will integrate AI and will deliver the best outcomes with AI in the future.
Great. We have room for one more question here. So the question reads, all the vendors are talking about XDR today. Where do you stand on that? Is it good, bad? What are your thoughts?
Like I said, XDR is great. Every product is XDR. I don't think you can buy any product today, cybersecurity product, that doesn't talk about XDR in some shape or form. XDR is again another way for vendors to come out to the marketplace and say, hey, you know what? I've got a magic bullet, and it's called XDR. I think there's some great solutions. I think, matter of fact, next month in August, Stratagem is hosting another webinar on XDR. But in my mind, XDR is a component within our cybersecurity mesh architecture. If you look at all the tools and you look at them from an integration standpoint, they're great. But if you start to look at them as this is going to be my end all and be all, and if I buy XDR from vendor A, it's going to magically make my life a lot easier. I don't believe in that at all. I think that's a mistake. It's never going to be that way. So XDR is great. Everybody's in XDR. The question is, how do you implement it, and what value? What are the outcomes you're looking for from these tools? And that is why we talk about security as a service. That is why we talk about cybersecurity mesh architecture, because these are the tools. This is how you bring everything together, break the silos down, use the intelligence, have an intelligence layer of all these tools to deliver great outcomes for you.
Okay, excellent. Move on here to the slides. That's all the questions today. So as part of everyone joining on today, we have a live draw to win a pair of Bose headphones. The winner will be contacted by email. So I'm just going to be, someone is texting me here on the back end. They have put everybody into a random draw. And the winner is Mujilan Govadanjaru. So congratulations. We will contact you by email for you to be able to claim that prize. So how did we do today? We love feedback all the time. So if you could scan this QR code and answer a few questions, our marketing team would love to hear from you. So we'll wait here. We'll spend 2 minutes on this slide and we'll close out with a final slide here.
Please do give me a good rating.
All right, so as part of security as a service, as John shared, one of the biggest threat vectors that security as a service helps you secure against is phishing. And it's no surprise that several reports estimate 3.4 billion malicious emails are sent every day. Each one of us has one sitting in our inbox right now. I can bet everything on that. So to respond to that, what Stratagem has done is in partnership with /Next, we're offering everybody a non-intrusive email observability assessment. And all you'd have to do to claim that is scan this QR code in the top right. So this is basically a free non-intrusive assessment. It's going to integrate into your Microsoft 365 through an API call. It's simple to set up, only 5 to 10 minutes to integrate, runs in the background with no impact, and it will compute for you a comprehensive detailed report, basically highlighting for you the details of attacks that evaded your current email defenses. And this is a very quick way to be able to, show to your board or show to your executive leadership team, or if you are the executive leader here, to be able to patch patch the gaps in terms of your environment, and Stratagem can sit with you and create a roadmap in terms of solving these problems as well. Next slide, John, if you can as well. And that's it. So there's a bit of contact detail. We can stay on that slide there with the QR code. But I wanted to appreciate everybody's time here today. Thank you so much for spending a few hours, let's call it an hour with us today. We have recorded this session and it will be put up in about 24 hours on our YouTube page for Stratagem. Our marketing team will also leave links to it in our LinkedIn portfolio and also send you an email to be able to access or refer back to this. But if you've seen anything here that's intrigued you or any questions you have, please reach out to me personally, Nasreen Shams, and find me on LinkedIn. My email should be on the next page here. Perfect, there it is. You can give me a call, send me an email, and that concludes the webinar for today. So we will chat with you next month on our XDR platform with Stratagem and Cisco. Thanks again for your time, and we'll talk soon.